When you think of Hollywood and Singapore, one film probably comes to mind.
Everyone's having too much fun here.
This is the movie that's got everyone talking.
Crazy Rich Asians. Released in 2018, it was a box office hit, making over $200 million worldwide. But beyond the numbers, it was seen as a breakthrough moment in Hollywood. The first major studio film in 25 years to feature an all-Asian cast. And this hasn't happened since The Joy Luck Club in 1993. In the US, it was celebrated as a win for representation, a sign that Asian-led films could be glamorous, romantic, and commercially successful. But in Singapore, the reaction was more complicated.
So to have done a movie in Singapore, they should represent this idea of multiculturalism that is blatant in Singapore.
Yes, the film put Singapore on the global stage, but many felt it spoke more to Asian American identity rather than to Singapore's multicultural reality. Still, for all its flaws, Crazy Rich Asians can be considered progress, because before this, Hollywood's version of Singapore was even less recognizable. One of the earliest Hollywood portrayals of Singapore appeared in the 1928 silent film Across to Singapore. Originally titled China Bound, the name alone reveals how little distinction Hollywood made between different parts of Asia. Singapore wasn't seen as a real place of its own. It was just part of this vague, exotic East. And the film wasn't even shot here. Authenticity, what's that? All Hollywood cared about was atmosphere, and this pattern continued for decades. These movies reinforced Hollywood's version of Singapore, a jungle outpost in the Far East, chaotic, dangerous, foreign. They weren't about Singapore as it was, but how Hollywood needed it to look. And as early as 1936, local voices were skeptical of Hollywood's presence in Singapore. One writer noted of upcoming Hollywood pictures: "We shall, of course, be unable to judge until we see the films, but previous experience leads us to fear that it will be a far different Singapore from that which all of us know. A romanticized magic of the East image, grossly misrepresenting Singapore's reality, a leading port with a dynamic, diverse population." This lack of authentic representation continued for decades, even as Hollywood style evolved. After World War II, the rise in popularity of spy films recast Singapore as a backdrop for noir and Cold War thrillers, along with the trope that would continue to this day, a metropolis with a dark, seedy underbelly. With its colonial past and multicultural present, Singapore was the perfect in-between, a place where East met West, a place for espionage, smuggling, and shadowy dealings. One film pushed it even further, Saint Jack, the story of an American pimp determined to make it big in Singapore's underground. Filmed under a fake title to outwit censors, its gritty take on the city's sex trade got it banned for nearly 30 years. And yet, it may have been the most accurate Hollywood portrayal of Singapore, with real-life locations like the now-demolished Empress Place Hawker Centre, albeit sensationalized, with storylines featuring transgender people on Bugis Street. But as the jungles gave way to public housing and jobs in factories replaced the black market, Singapore, along the way, modernized. But now, the old narrative no longer fit. And Hollywood? Well, Hollywood lost interest. By the 1990s and 2000s, Singapore had virtually disappeared from Hollywood's radar. Until 2007, when it re-emerged, again as a fantastical, foggy, lawless pirate island in Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Side note, I actually do love that movie though, is that Chow Yun-fat?
Captain Barbosa, welcome to Singapore.
How iconic. Were we back to old tropes? Or was this 21st century city offering new opportunities? Singapore's rapid transformation has given it renewed cinematic appeal, and a new stereotype has arrived: the dystopian. In recent years, Hollywood has returned to Singapore, but for a different reason. Something sleeker. The futuristic cityscape. Today's skyline doesn't just look modern, it looks like the future. Like, look at that, and this. I don't even know how they made this one. Enough. But even in this new Hollywood vision, old habits die hard. Just last month in the US TV series Countdown, a Singaporean businessman was shown speaking only Malay and needing a translator. An assumption that felt careless and tone deaf. Built on a quick Google search of Singapore's national language, the portrayal ignored the country's multicultural reality, where English is widely spoken and no translator would ever be needed in a professional setting. Even in 2017, an episode of Criminal Minds Beyond Borders leaned again on the seedy underbelly cliche, this time in Geylang, or at least a Hollywood backlot doubling for Geylang. And with the usual Hollywood carelessness, an establishing shot of Singapore ended up actually being stock footage of Bogota, Colombia. Yes, Singapore is finally on screen as a high-tech city, but even now, it's often portrayed as beautiful but blank. Even Crazy Rich Asians, it ditched the jungle, yeah, but it replaced it with something else. Absurd opulence. Singapore's reputation as one of the world's most expensive cities was exaggerated into a caricature of wealth and excess. So while Hollywood's vision has changed, it's still a stereotype, just a new one. And the concerns voiced nearly a century ago remain relevant today. As the 1936 paper put it, the selection Hollywood makes will always filter Singapore through a particular lens. If this is progress, it's still incomplete. Because no matter how sharp the visuals or how futuristic the skyline, a story without its people is still hollow. Ultimately, if we want the world to see the real Singapore, we can't wait for Hollywood. We have to tell those stories ourselves.